Though you've probably never heard of the company Wasabi Mango before, and I won't fault you for that, what you're looking at here is a 42-inch IPS 4K 60 Hz monitor with HDMI 2.0 support, and it just got a FreeSync upgrade. Hey everybody, Ryan Schrout for PC Perspective here. What you're looking at today is the Wasabi Mango UHD420. It is a 42-inch 4K 60 Hz IPS screen that has pretty good image quality from what we've got. It is a Korean monitor. If you followed the kind of Korean monitor craze, this very much falls in line with that. Something that's for sale on eBay, something that's for sale on Amazon from third-party resellers. We ordered it, it shipped straight from Seoul, and we got it in like 3 days, right? So these are the types of experiences you're gonna have when ordering a Korean monitor. Don't expect to know what the Wasabi Mango brand is. I don't know, except that I know it has a green and an orange logo, and now it kind of makes sense in my head. The most interesting part about this monitor is obviously the FreeSync upgrade. And I say upgrade because this was a display that didn't ship with FreeSync support. And we happened to come across a support page on a forum talking about, hey, they released a new firmware that lists FreeSync support. That got us very curious. We hadn't heard anything from AMD. We obviously had not heard anything from this company about this technology or about this upgrade path. So we went ahead and ordered one of the monitors in. We got it in, it shipped, it arrived without FreeSync support. We updated it. It does have FreeSync support now, and we'll tell you about that as well. But first, a quick overview of the monitor in and of itself. It's huge. We seem to have this thing with really large monitors now at PC Perspective. We just 40 and 42-inch 4K displays. We just got them all over the place. It looks like a TV. It's really a monitor. It comes with a remote control, which would make you think, again, that it's kind of like a TV. It does not have a tuner in it. You have 4 HDMI ports with 2 of them that support HDMI 2.0. You've got 1 display port, 1 VGA. You have audio pass-through, 3.5 millimeter pass-through on that, and you have a 3-port USB 3.0 hub. It really is a monitor. It does have integrated speakers, so you can use this Korean labeled remote to control that if you want, and change inputs or whatever, but it seems to have fairly limited functionality from our testing here. It doesn't have any height adjustment. There's no angle adjustment. There's no tilt or anything like that. It's got pedestal feet. It is flat. What you get is what you see there, right? So you're not going to get any changes from that. Image quality wise, it actually is pretty good. It has it's an IPS screen, great viewing angles, pretty good color reproduction, no complaints there. It does kind of have a high gloss screen. It's not nearly as matte finish as we tend to like our monitors to be, so in that way it's kind of more like a television than we would like to see, but it's really not that bad. And again, kind of in a PC gaming environment or productivity environment, as close as you are, you'll probably be able to work around any kind of glare that you might see there. Let's just go ahead and talk about the gaming experience here and kind of the FreeSync support, right? So this is a 60 Hz 4K monitor that does have HDMI 2.0 support, which we should point out. And we did validate that it worked, and it's running at 444, so full color there. Like, we hooked it up to a 980 Ti and we're able to see the full range of colors and gamut there. So that's awesome. Keep in mind, one little quick note, some of these monitors under the same model number shipped originally with just HDMI 1.4 support, and now a new revision is coming out with HDMI 2.0. So keep in mind when you look through an eBay listing or an Amazon listing that it specifically mentions HDMI 2.0 if that's a feature you're looking for. Now, when we got the monitor in, it was running an older version of the firmware. We hooked it up to our AMD Fury X GPU test bed here, and no FreeSync enabled options, no little pop-up bubble, no options in the Catalyst Control Center. Played some games on it. It worked as you would expect. It was a 60 Hz monitor. Requires a lot of GPU horsepower, but you know, it was able to run. We went through the firmware update, which is a little bit convoluted. It involves things like downloading a firmware bin file to a native FAT32 USB drive, sticking it in the service port, turning the monitor off, turning it back on, waiting for the red-green lights to stop blinking, and then unplugging it, not just turning it off, but unplugging it, removing the USB drive, and then plugging it back in. That's more or less the order. Make sure you check all the directions and everything so we don't fry anybody's TVs, or monitors rather, but make sure you check that out. But the process was fairly simple, and lo and behold, we did that. Booted it back up, I had to change the language back from Korean to English, and go into the Control Center, you could enable FreeSync. And there was an OSD option you had to enable for FreeSync as well. So there goes this is my first experience with an upgraded monitor. This is something that, Richard Huddy was out here and did an interview with us, and Andy talked about, the possibility of kind of updates to enable FreeSync, and they never really happened on the monitor side, but with this, we get our first experience with it. So what is the FreeSync experience like with this? First of all, you have a very limited range. 60 hertz maximum refresh rate of the panel, so that's kind of your top limit. The minimum refresh rate of variable sync based on our testing is 42 hertz, right? So that's pretty narrow. You're talking about an 18 frames per second window that you have where you can take advantage of variable refresh. Now that's very, very, very small. If you remember back to the launch of FreeSync, we complained about the first monitor we had a range of 48 to 75, and that was one of our biggest complaints, was that limited range. When you go below 42 frames per second, like all the FreeSync monitors, when you go below that minimum range, you are either enabling VSync or disabling VSync. So you're either going to get some stutter and judder, or you're going to get some screen tearing. Now, if you're dropping below 40 frames per second, that frame tearing and judder can be quite noticeable and pretty distracting. But we loaded up some games. We took something like Assassin's Creed Unity that is known to be a hog on GPUs, and we could adjust settings to get it where we could swing between, say 35 and 45 or 50 frames per second, so we could kind of see how that transition worked. And it was there. You could see the same transition effects, but it worked when you were above 42 frames per second. That's actually really, really good news. And it is a very limited range, so I'm not going to try to sugarcoat that. But one interesting thing to think about, because this is a 4K resolution screen, what you need to go into it with the mindset is 60 hertz, 60 frames per second is my target goal. I want to hit 60 frames per second on all of my games, or very, very, very close to it. And what the FreeSync enablement of this monitor and the variable refresh enablement of this monitor allows you to do is have some wiggle room from that. If your frame rate is 60, dedicated, static with VSync on the majority of the time, and every once in a while you kind of dip down into the 55, maybe the 50, maybe the 45 frames per second range, you're not going to get that jarring experience change of tearing or stutter one way or the other. As long as you stay above 42, and then maybe you get out of that particular spot in the game, and the frame rate comes back up, and you get back to your 60 range. So what this does, it doesn't fundamentally change a gaming experience overall, like some of the wider range FreeSync and G-Sync monitors have, but what it does do is it enables a safety zone, if you will, of variable refresh. You drop from 60 down to 50, you're not going to worry about any of those artifacts. So it does work. We played some games on it. It looks good. Again, you got a 42-inch screen, so you're bezel-less essentially in many ways, right? You're getting a view into the window of whatever game you happen to be playing. And now for an interesting part, the pricing on this is pretty damn good. We bought this for, I think, $790 or so on Amazon with free shipping from Korea, which is not cheap, by the way. And it arrived here in 3 days. We're pretty close to a DHL shipping outlet, so it's quick. But $790. We've seen them on eBay for kind of like the low 700s every once in a while as well, and depending on when you buy, you might see it over 800. But this is a very compelling option for people that are, especially if you're an AMD user, if you're an AMD Fury X owner, an AMD Fury owner, maybe two Furies, you're running in Crossfire, you're looking for that 4K experience. This is 4K on a huge scale, 42-inch diagonal, and it's a pretty compelling experience, really, for under $800. We talked about the Seiki monitor recently. That's like a $1,000 display, and you can go well over $1,000 on 4K monitors really, really, really quickly. So I like this TV/monitor quite a bit. We might keep it around because of its kind of FreeSync capability, as well as it being an HDMI 2.0 full capability display for us. But now you know a little bit more about the world of what the Korean monitors are building up for us next. If you remember the onslaught of 25x14 monitors for the Korean onslaught of displays into the US, I think this is kind of what you're looking at next. Now this matches, they also have a 55-inch model of this TV. I keep saying TV, but monitor that also has the same firmware update to include FreeSync support. I'm not sure what its minimum frame rate would be for variable refresh. I'm assuming it's going to be very close, if not identical, thinking that the scalars inside these screens are going to be the same. There's another company, I'm going to cheat here and look at my notes, called Crossover, another Korean monitor company that also announced a FreeSync upgrade firmware for a 43 and a 49-inch monitor. So you're starting to see this kind of transition. This is what we always expected and what we always wanted FreeSync to become, is this, if it's this open standard that you can just plug it in and it'll work. Sometimes you get fantastic and amazing experiences. Sometimes you get pretty good experiences, which is what I would say this is. Small range, limited window, don't target that window, target above it, and use the variable refresh as this kind of safety zone to maintain a very smooth and consistent gaming experience. That's it for now, guys. Check out PCPro.com. We'll have a little bit more write-up about this particular monitor, if you will, the Wasabi Mango UHD420. So thanks, guys. See you next time.